Greetings and peace. What's going on? This is Queen Sarita coming at you with another documenting my life journey. This time I'm coming to you to tell you how I learned how to read tarot. How did I learn? I've answered several things on tarot. I'm still working on putting out some content that I have for you. However, this is a question that I need to answer right here and now, even before we get to the master class that's coming up, because I have shared how I learned how to do divination, how I always saw very vivid pictures, and how people used to come to me to ask me for guidance on different things. They used to want me to listen to what they had to say. And I used to always get stories and lots of stories from people. And I also learned how to hold things in confidence too, so I provided a space where people were not going to get everybody's personal information. So people felt comfortable talking to me since I was young. But one of the things that helped me to learn tarot before I even get to how I learned was my desire came from feeling misunderstood, hurt. I needed to mature. I wanted to know so many things that I felt like nobody could answer for me. I felt like there was an answer for everything, but I needed to find the right medium to be able to ask my questions through. And at first I didn't, I had believed that there was a creator of all, or, a God, or something like that, a cosmic force. I felt like that at first, and then something happened and I didn't really feel like I believed it anymore, and that lasted for a year or so when I was young. And then several things happened because I said, show me that this is a reality, that there is really something that's governing the universe, and there's something that I can interact with. So I didn't talk to anybody about this. I just started doing it. And then something answered back, and I kept getting an interaction with some magical, mystical force, and it kept happening. But I kept on putting the question out there, and I learned to, just work on these things within myself. And I kind of kept notes in my journal loosely, although it was loose because I didn't want anybody to read what I was writing and laugh at me. So that happened. Those were some of the things that led up to me wanting to have the gift to read. I felt like it was a gift to be able to read and bypass asking people what they thought about things to help you figure them out. If I could just go to the creator and just go straight to that, I was like, man, I can't go wrong. So it was then that started. But then, I started having teachers come into my life, various teachers that I didn't know. Some of them were teachers. Well, they were all teachers in their way. But one thing that happened before I even got with the teachers and started learning that way was I was having nightmares when I was young, and this is how I got acclimated to there being spirit. I did an exercise where I made myself not have nightmares anymore by interacting with the spirit world deliberately. And that's when I knew then that there was something that I could do on my end to change my life. But so I just kept on practicing and like I'm doing now, and seeing what's working, making notes of it like a scientist. And I did the same thing with tarot. But at first I didn't keep notes. I didn't keep notes because I didn't feel like I was worthy of being able to do that. I felt like, who gave you permission to do that? Now it's been years and I feel fine with doing it, but it took a long time for me to feel like it was okay to be able to take notes, to be able to talk about tarot with other people. I really felt like this was something I had to keep to myself for a long time, something that wasn't accepted by the mainstream. And so I kept it to myself and I worked with it. And I did end up working with clients who had a spiritual path, or they had experienced some spiritual awakenings. They were learning more about life and who they were. Those people they felt, some people, most people felt comfortable with the tarot. And so I started basically channeling messages with tarot, with oracle cards, using my divinations tools, different tools I had, alongside of using tarot. But I did that was around the time when I was working in wireless communications, in sales, and I felt like there was a lot of stress going on at that time. And it was a while back. It's been over 10 years. But what happened was I was finding all kinds of resources that kept leading me back to myself and working with spirit, becoming more at peace with life and having more appreciation, doing more things that you love. So that's when I was like, you know what? Why do I feel so funny about working with tarot? I'm going to start bringing my cards out. I'm going to start attracting clients. I'm kind of backtracking, but this is some of the stuff that came up. I was just like, I'm going to attract clients. I'm going to let people see me work with these tools. So I'd wrap my cards up. I used to take them to work with me. But first what happened was I found there was a book called Divination. And that book led me to one of my spiritual teachers that I was just in awe with and of. And the teachings that he brought forth this lifetime had been life-changing for me back then, because they were written for especially Black people that were Cometian, who identified with having lineage or connection or knowledge, inner knowledge of being connected to Kemet, in Egypt, where you saw the tombs and all the pharaohs and queens, and I always felt some sort of resonance with that. Never had been before, but it spoke to me. And so I started studying and reading without a teacher at first, just reading from the book. And this book came out of literally nowhere, but it came right at the right time when I was diving deeper into learning who I was. I didn't tell anybody really what I was doing. I kind of kept what I was doing to myself. I had a couple of friends I talked to, but the stuff was so deep. It was talking about the oneness, that you are by nature, we're peaceful by nature, how to enjoy life and live in peace and joy. There's so much more to it than that. The comedian tree of life also. And really what it helped with was me to begin to have a positive self-image of myself. Before then, I really saw myself as somebody who needed a lot of healing, and I didn't know how to do it all. But I was already a healer, so, I was already started on that path. But a lot of things were deep-seated, and I didn't know how to reach them. So after reading the Divination, and during that, I actually found out there was a community associated with the book. And I was like, oh my God, there's community too? And that was something I really wanted. I missed, that element of growing up. I didn't have the African spirituality growing up, Pan-African spirituality growing up. Just something positive that shows people that look like you and they're doing something positive. A lot of images of people of color can be depicted as not something that I want representing me. If you look at it, compared to other races and how they're depicted at times. So we have to create our own images. That's what I've come to the realization of, and not depend on somebody else to do that. And if there are people putting out positive images, support those people, because it's going to help support your own image and put out images of other people also. So anyway, going back to how I learned. All right, let me wrap this up in like 5 minutes or less. So this book that I found in the community, there were oracle cards associated with the book and the community. And they also had Kemetic images on there, images like hieroglyphics and different things. Oh my God. So I was literally in love. I was in awe. And I was like, oh my God, I get to use a tool to find out more about myself. I didn't like everything that I was seeing as I studied. However, it was cutting the layers down of whatever indoctrinations I had gotten in my life this lifetime and growing up and all that. And I knew I needed to get rid of a lot of self-limiting beliefs, programs. So I started working on meditations galore, working with memorizing the oracle so I could read for other people. I really studied hard. I did hundreds and thousands of meditations. I mean, I really did put all my life energy into it. But you can always do better. But that's how I started. So that helped me feel comfortable with handling cards and being a Black woman and all that, because number one, this was from a community that was using these cards, and oh my God, beautiful, very intuitive process. I had my own way of reading them, but I read by the system at first, and then I started developing my own way of reading, and I started carrying tarot cards while I was in that community, started studying and getting initiated through other African spiritual paths also, which I won't even talk about here, but several different things. I got my ordination also as a minister in the midst of all of this, and I got that like a couple of times. Became a priestess, a whole lot of things happened, but that's how I learned. And I mean, I literally made myself be, what do I want to say? I was so eager to practice tarot. I would sit and do hundreds of readings. I wanted to know how to read if I was without cards. I wanted to know how to read, if I had any type of deck in my hand. Eventually I wanted to know, how do I read any deck? How do I read the symbols of life in a spiritual format, so I can always have my connection to the Creator. That's really how I learned. I learned because I wanted to feel the connection to the universe more, feel more connected, know why I'm here, find out what my path was, my destiny. What did I come here to do? It was really about that. It was everything about that. And so I'd write all my readings down in a book. I had several different journals. I'd write in like a nerd. I'd do this for hours. I'd meditate. There was a time when I worked for myself completely. After I was at the wireless job, I ended up putting in my 2-week notice or whatever I put in, because I had been there for 6.5 years. I was really getting adept with divination and still studying that, learning who I was, falling more in love with life, and also just being born from the inside out. And it was tough. And a lot of this time I was up in Baltimore, in Maryland, for a lot of the tarot readings and the awakenings and all that stuff. Ooh. And what else? Yeah, that's how I learned. I sat down for hours, so I could teach y'all tarot just by us not even using any tarot cards. I could talk tarot with you. I could talk divination. So we're going to just do that, because it's something that I've always enjoyed. The images, the way they feel in your hands. It's like having a toy. It's like you get to play with your inner child, but you're communicating with spirit. You're able to look at subtle messages of the universe that are to you, from you. It's amazing. Your ancestors speak to you. Your spirit guides, angels. So yeah, if you're about that and you love how all that sounds, then hey, that's why I got into reading tarot. Those are the things that drove me to wanting to really learn it, and having the right type of teacher really made the biggest difference of all. I've read a lot of stuff, but I've done a lot of hands-on stuff with tarot. But the first teacher that I got, amazing. And so yeah, I could definitely help you with tarot if you like the way that I teach it. We can dive deeper. It is something that I love, and I just want to share it with you. So yeah, hopefully that covered a good deal of it. If you have any more questions, let me know below. In peace. And I wish you all much joy and amazingness on your journey with tarot.